And that'll be for the benefit of those who may want to watch and see what we were talking about. Paula, you also said you need to update your rental policy for people who want to rent pavilions, larger areas of public parks.
Yeah, we have like a 200-person pavilion. And it's become a little bit more than just like birthday parties and graduation. Last year we had about 3 rentals for I'm saying this right, Diwali festival. But it was opened up to like the public, like they advertised it to the public. So our dumpsters were overflowing with garbage. We probably should have had security there. So I would like to update our rental policy to accommodate, beyond just a regular rental. Anyone have anything like that?
Paula, this is Judy. We just redid ours because of the same similar situations we've been having. So I can send you what we have. I can email that to you. Great. I'll put my email in the chat.
And anyone else who might be interested, go ahead and put your email in the chat. And we can make sure that gets sent out to you.
Paula, I can email you ours as well. We, during COVID, we're having a lot of parties come to the park, and it was a lot of non-resident use because we border Philadelphia. So we were getting a lot of city events because the city was completely shut down while we were kind of open during that portion. So we had to redo ours and limited it to specifically to residents.
Great.
Well, that's great. There's a lot coming on the chat about different forms that are available. Paul, you're going to have your pick, I think.
Perfect. That's what I need.
Yes.
And I would say too, if you want to share your form with the whole group, you can add it to the chat box. We can download it and send it in the follow-up email.
So here in Muhlenberg, we also have what we call a large event policy within one of our parks that is really huge. So it's just specific to that park, and people rent a pavilion, but they also need to pay sometimes for a farmhouse because it impacts, we call it an impact fee. So they're just not renting one facility. It's an impact
fee. I like that. I'm making
I will send that, all that little information, because I actually too just updated that in December and it went in effect in January. So
awesome.
Yeah, get you some of those extra fees, trash,
and they had like 500 cars in the park, so they were taking up parking in the ball field. So that's not just a rental.
That is not just a rental. So.
Yeah.
Are they looking to come back?
Well, I kept their security deposit last year, and they just now emailed me saying if there's changes. So I have to try to put it off until I get changes in place.
So that really took you by surprise then, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
Mimi Legro, I hope I'm saying that right.
It's Legro. Yeah.
Go ahead and why don't you go ahead and speak about what you're interested in there?
Yeah, so I'm Conewago Township, Dauphin County, and we just put in pickleball courts, and it has been overwhelmingly popular. So we've had, neighboring townships using the courts, which is great, but I'm just wondering how other people who have courts might, set up a schedule or fees, is it just the residents, township residents that use your courts, or is it open to the public?
Mimi, before we get started, I want to let you know that there were like so many knowingly smiles coming from the video feeds of people who have had probably similar situations with pickleball. I think everybody wants to do, the cross against it or whatever, but let's go ahead. Any help from Mimi then?
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
I have been dealing with some pickleball issues, similar situation. Our courts have been there, like we have one location that courts have been there like 7 years. There's 8 courts. We've become a hotspot in southeastern Pennsylvania. People are coming from everywhere. Neighbors are complaining about the noise. The neighbors were great for the first 4 or 5 years, but the play is nonstop, 7 days a week, from 9 to 8. Well, sometimes as early as 6:30 and 7, they'd be out there with blowers. We did have a group that we did a permit for, so that we'd have some sense of organization. They were there 5 days a week. We pushed back to 3 days a week because residents are saying, well, I don't want to have to join this group to use a public facility in the mornings during the week. We're thinking of trying to do some noise mitigation. If anybody looked into that, it's very, very expensive. To wrap our 8 courts completely with the noise barrier would be somewhere along the lines of about $30,000 to $40,000. I'm actually meeting with some of the residents this week. We're going to try to schedule times that are resident only, but in order to do that, we'll have to staff it. And that challenge, because it's a 6 or 7 month proposition, if we're actually going to try to affect some change and get the residents some relief from just the sheer numbers, and to say that at certain times they're non-residents, or certain times it's residents only, but I know we're going to get a lot of pushback on that. So we're sort of in the heart of the challenges, and because we were a little bit ahead of the curve because we had the courts for like 8 years. We did open 2 other locations in the last 3 years. We have 4 courts at one location and 6 in another, and the hope was we would spread out the groups. I think all we'll end up doing is bringing more people to our community. So that's the challenge in Haverford.
Okay.
So I don't know if that helps you at all. We're just a little bit ahead of where you are.
Do people reserve the courts ahead of time?
No, we do not do individual permits. We did a group permit. Like I said, when the people we did the group permit with were one of an organization that came to us of residents and some non-residents 7 or maybe 9 years ago and said, we'd like to get these pickleball courts, these courts converted from tennis to pickleball. And they were very helpful in the process. They helped raise money. They helped raise awareness. They got people to tell the commissioners they thought it was a good idea. But it's just grown and grown and grown. So it's literally, sometimes you want to tell residents that live around a park, hey, you just got to deal with this. But it's literally 40 to 50 hours a week where there's 40 people showing up to play pickleball. The funny thing is, the average age is probably over 60.
Yeah.
So so basically we've opened up recreation opportunities to people that probably haven't played pickup games in forever, and now they love it and they're there all the time. So
Have you reached out to anyone from Philly Park and Rec? They're called the Water Tower Courts over in Philly Park and Rec. They're right across the border from Springfield, and they're right next to apartments. And then the apartment residents started to complain because the hours of use were so long that then Philly Park and Rec shaved down the hours. They locked the courts so that it was limited time. And then the users then sued Philly Park and Rec because they wanted the courts back open. So, I mean, they might be good to talk to about that because
I will
kind of
reach out
like
to
a lose-lose.
Do you have the name from somebody in Philly I should reach out to?
I would probably reach out to Bill Salvatore. Do you think that's right, Derek?
I would agree with that. He's a little higher up than the rec leader at Water Tower, so that might help out. But if you wanted that person's number, I know Chuck as well. He's the rec leader there.
That would be great. I appreciate any help you can give me.
Yeah, let me put my email address in the chat. You can reach out to me and I'll send you some information.
Okay, I will. Thank you, Derek.
Yep. So just to piggyback off what Brian was saying about not really reserving those pickleball courts for anyone. In Montgomery Township, we have a similar thing. Some tennis courts have been converted to pickleball courts. There's some new ones coming in. The philosophy with us is they're public spaces. We're not regulating. They come in, they use them. We're not doing tournaments, nothing like that. The caveat is we have a community center, so we have controlled indoor facility where people also like to play. We like member only times there too.
Yeah, we actually have our community center and we're running 5 days a week from October 1st through like May 1st. And that's fine. We're not getting overwhelmed there. It's inside, so there's nobody complaining about the sound.
Yeah, it's just resource. Like if you start putting more control in the outdoor courts, do you have the staff to enforce it? Because
That's exactly it. That's
it's not fair
exactly
to
the
the
problem.
police either, you know.
Yeah, we're actually looking into, and I don't even know if this is possible, but we're looking into time locks on the gates because the staffing challenge will be great. And getting somebody there to open it up at whether it's 8 a.m. because our park guidelines are dawn to dusk. So if we say 8 o'clock, we almost have to put a resolution in place so that we don't get residents saying, well, wait a minute, the park's open at dawn. Why can't I play anytime after dawn? So
Yeah, and
it's a challenge to, you know, to enforce if we do try to limit the hours. Last year we just did it and we locked the courts before 8 a.m. because literally I'd have people with blowers out there at 7 a.m. blowing the courts before they played.
yeah, I mean, and then just to Emily's point there are public facilities, so how far can you go?
Well, I mean, I was thinking you could just lock the courts, you know, and just have a certain, you know, time they're available. And I like the idea too, Kelly, with the adult school pickleball classes, reserving time for classes and also, Kelly, what is your Parks and Rec pickleball group? Is that an organized group? Kelly?
Sorry, I have technical issues with the mute unmute.
Oh, okay.
So the Parks and Rec department has what we call our pickleball group, and it's designated play time for people who are willing to pay for those. So we have volunteers who run the group and coordinate scheduling. They're currently using Team Reach to schedule the courts. It's free, but it's a little bit lacking. So we're looking into software to handle that. But you can just sign up and that allows you to play during guaranteed times. So like if you just show up to the courts and there's no one there, you can play. But if you want to be guaranteed to play when you show up, you just join the group and then reserve court time through that.
And do you have staffing there that handles the, you know, people who may be on the court when they get there? And I'm saying, well, this is my court. Then I have residents fighting over the court.
We have signs posted and then our volunteers just handle it. We've been doing this since 2019. So by now, most of our residents are familiar with it. There's a little bit sometimes of anger and frustration, but for the most part, people are now used to like the signs with the times posted.
Oh, so if you are part of this group, then do they match you up with other players and you play? Is that how that works?
Yeah, you can just go in and sign up for like when you are available. You can sign up for an open spot on a court, and they do usually. Our group is very in depth in everything, and they do try to match you up with people of equal skill.
Oh, okay. How many courts do you have?
We don't have any permanent pickleball courts, but we have 2 different locations that each can accommodate. One accommodates 8, the other accommodates 6 courts, but we share them with tennis.
Okay.
But the lines are drawn for pickleball, so whoever's playing, you just
Yeah,
wheel the net.
we started with that, and then we had so many pickleball players that we got a grant and then built 2 courts, and now we probably need 4 courts. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I think we need permanent courts.
I want to add this just for an FYI. One of my friends works with sound at Penn State, and so he's always measuring decibels and things like that. And pickleball is just above annoying as far as the sound from that. And he said one of the problems with pickleball is it's not so much the loudness of the pickleball, although it is loud. It's more about it's unpredictable, the sound. So like you can get used to a train schedules if you live near railroad tracks and just get used to it and won't think twice about it. But because the pickleball, you know, the hits don't come at a consistent pattern or anything about it, it's always sort of jarring to you. So that's one of the reasons why pickleball can be a source of complaints from your neighbors, is because they never really get used to that sound.
Yeah, the sound,
The second thing he was saying is that the only way you can really combat it is by using weighty or high mass materials. And the amount of material you might need to, put around your fencing to absorb that kind of sound might actually bring down the fencing. Because it's just so much material. And Brian, I think you were talking about $30,000-$40,000, and you're probably right in the ballpark there, because that material needs to be so sound absorbing. The more mass, the better the sound absorption. And so that's also the other problem is you really can't combat the sound that well without a real expensive solution to it. So those are two things going forward that you just have to think through, I guess, with your pickleball.
Is there any wind protection that people have applied to their courts, like
we
plastic?
put wind screens on our courts.
Are those helpful?
Yes, they are helpful.
Where do you get them?
I think we purchased them from like, one of our sports. I think it might be BSN might have them. I'd have to check on that.
Okay.
I'll have to check with our park maintenance team because they purchased them.
Okay, and you just put those on like one side, or?
Yeah, they're just on the inside.
Oh, okay, on the inside. Okay.
Now, Brian, do they help with the sound at all, or just the?
No. And as you said, Dan, it's your comments are very apt. The sound's incessant. And, and what we're getting is if you have younger players, they hit the ball harder. And if we have 8 courts going at once, which at this one location where we're getting our complaints, the 8 courts are going, I'm going to say somewhere on the order of about 50 hours a week. So the neighbors feel like they never get a break, and they feel like even with their air conditioning on in their house, they can hear it. I don't know how true that is, but we're going to get at our meeting on Saturday if there's anybody playing. And the thing is with pickleball, they'll play in 40 and 30 degree weather too. And then you don't have any tree leaves on the trees. It might be some help with sound mitigation. So everything is more pronounced in the winter because the sound travels a little further.
We've seen players move snow off the court to play. All right.
Yeah.
It's a dedicated bunch, I guess, too.
How many of you who have pickleball now wish you did not have it?
I mean, the hassles make it, you feel like, is it worth it? But the people love it. Like, we've only heard from the complainers. Once we start limiting, we're going to hear from the pickleball people. And as I explained to the board, our board of commissioners, and I explained to our park board, there's going to be more users complaining than the people that are concerned about the noise.
Mimi, back to your original question. We installed our courts in 2016. So we've been at this for a little while now. And we went through all the ups and downs with the scheduling idea and how to limit certain groups to certain times. And over time, we just realized that the players who are always there, which is a couple hundred at this time, they put a WhatsApp group together and people stepped up to run it. And now certain skill levels play at certain times. And it's, I think, way more helpful to have everyone work together kind of on their own, and it takes us out of the picture a little bit. We posted rules just to, be courteous and the standard protocol at a public facility. But having us like a step out of it, people wanted us to get really, really involved and try to limit who could play at what times, but it was just too much. So if you can find some people that will step up and volunteer in the pickleball group or could make one, in the long run, I think that could benefit you.
That's helpful. Sorry, my dog is barking, so I'm gonna mute. But yeah, I'd like to have posting rules and just throw it back to the pickleball users to organize their time and reservations. I like that. But I do like reserving a little bit of time, for classes for people to be able to come and learn the game.
Yeah, we've been offering classes, and every time we offer them, they fill. We're going to try to offer more of them, and we hope that will help us maybe control some of the timing a little better.
Yeah, we would schedule leagues, tournaments and lessons, but they would always be through our department. So they were our courts to utilize and to run. But we would try to pick kind of less used times, like during the day throughout the week, rather than an evening, to still give, the community plenty of time to play. So we tried to work with them on that. And we also opened 3 open gyms indoor at our community center here to try to encourage more use, because obviously it's what everyone's hearing. There's not enough time to play or not enough courts. So as long as people start building them, or, churches put up rollaways, it should hopefully lessen that need.
So we have 6 courts coming in for the first time. Can someone send me a copy of their current rules? I would like to set everything up like the right way from the very beginning. Does anybody have like a, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be helpful to have some rules that you might have posted already.
Yeah.
So why don't you guys put your email addresses in the chat there, and then folks can cut and paste them and send your rules to them.
Okay, that works.
And I know we've been talking about pickleball for a while, and we could probably go on for a longer time, but I do want to change it up just a little bit. Emily, you talked about you're redoing your rec center. You want to talk about that? Maybe folks can help you out a little bit too.
Yes, so the township was under construction, the new building was being constructed, and then once the doors opened, they didn't know what to do with the temporary site, which served as the temporary library and administrative building. So then it was handed over to Park and Rec. So there's 2 buildings. It's an old Catholic school gym and the old church, which was carpeted and utilized as our library at the time. So we've been using it as a library or as a rec center for the last 4 years almost. And we're just kind of looking to rebuild it. The committee has already decided they don't want to renovate. They want to completely demolish and rebuild. The footprint's pretty limited, so that kind of is beneficial in that aspect of, we can only fit so much. So there's not too many hopes and dreams of pools, which I know have their own spiraling issues, which is, a blessing that it's a limited footprint. But we're really just looking to get the ball rolling as far as RFP, RFQ, just a timeline. I know I have all the information from the municipal site construction project, but that's not typically going to be that helpful when you're looking at basketball court flooring and all those kinds of things. So I just wanted to know if anyone had any information or had really good resources that were helpful in their process if they'd gone through that at that point.
No, we talked yesterday, Emily. I'll send you what I can.
Yeah.
We're doing our gym
Thank you.
floor. We're redoing our gym floor as well, so that can be kind of concurrent if you want.
That would be great. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Floyd's totally open to you visiting, so just let me know.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Does anybody have like something that went into a building project that didn't work out as well as you thought it might, or something that you were really grateful for that you included in a building project? Might help her to hear some of those things.
Just considerations. This was before me, but hold the engineer accountable. They messed up some basketball nets in our gym, so our township won a lawsuit against them. They just don't go up as they should. They're not at the right heights.
Okay.
The advice we got when we did our community center and we went around and visited other community centers to see how they did it was, you always need more storage space than you think. And you want to make your space as flexible as possible so that it can meet multi needs or activities. So I would put that out there to you.
Yes, one of my committee members was on the municipal complex site build, and she has firmly held her ground on she would like to come visit Haverford. So I will be sending you an email, Brian, about that. She is very, very passionate about the geothermal education panels that you guys have and the ability to see the system. So she really is gunning for that as part of the process, which I think is great because it kind of ties in the environmental education elements as well.
Yeah, just shoot me an email. We'd be happy to give you a tour.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dina Martin's making me laugh. She has a. Can we see your friend again there, Dina?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm just an
through-
animal.
We're going through the design process for a community center right now, and everywhere I toured said storage too. And the architects don't want to design that. It's something that's not pretty. So it seems that every single time I get a rendering, I'm asking for more storage. And something else that they did not want to give me was a like not mechanical, but a storage room with like a garage door for like deliveries. They kept telling me that they'll just bring the deliveries to the front door, and I'm just adamant. And it took me probably about 4 months to finally for them to design, you know, a back storage area for like maintenance and deliveries. So I haven't built it yet, but that's been my struggles with the architects, is just that's not the stuff they want to design. It's not pretty.
Right. No, that's definitely beneficial to hear, because we were talking about having exterior roll down garages for our sport groups to utilize one of the garages that we have now, which would then be irrelevant because it would be gone. So that's something that we've been kind of looking into, but that's definitely helpful for delivery purposes as well. But thank you, everyone. I will be sending some emails later. I appreciate it.
Great, thanks. We got some email, some action in the chat here about disc golf. And Dan, could you expound a little bit, Dan Miller?
Certainly, Dan, thanks. Our disc golf course was installed within the last year, and it has been a year in progress that we have now completed and are now ready for tournament play. We've been averaging about 1,600 rounds, and what consists of a round is a player that goes and plays the 18 holes on our disc golf course. We've been averaging 1,600 rounds a month on our disc golf course since probably June, when our course was half completed. And we did it in phases. We started with the layout, which was phase 1, the install of the baskets, phase 2, phase 3, we just recently put concrete tee pads in, which kind of defines a championship disc golf course from a novice disc golf course, but it has been very well received and very popular. And again, we are now moving in the direction of hosting tournaments. So local tournament directors within the area, or even expanding beyond the area in the region, are now calling on us to host disc golf tournaments. It's nice because it does bring a nice economic impact into the community. It does create a little bit of revenue for us because we do charge for the facility rental, but it's been a nice improvement. It's a wide range of people that are playing disc golf, from young to old, much like pickleball. I did see that someone wrote in there, it is a different user group. It is, but it does encompass all ages. We've had grandparents playing with their grandchildren. We've had just any number of people playing, and we have now advanced to offering some lessons and an introductory to disc golf as well.
How many of you have a disc golf course? You can use a reaction or your thumb. Karen, you're in. Derek, you find similar results with your disc golf?
Ours is pretty laid back now. We actually scaled it back because residents were complaining about, I don't even know what, to tell you the truth. That's kind of before me, but there was a lot of pushback on it, and now there's less.
How much space do you need for disc golf?
A lot between the course and the houses near it. I don't know the exact numbers though.
I mean, like a couple of acres, or?
Mimi, I think it depends a lot on your course layout. You can do one of several things. You can hire an engineer or a landscape architect to come in and lay out a course for you within the property that you have. We are very fortunate here. We have a local pro disc golf association member in our community who helped us lay it out. But we have installed this in a park that's roughly about 110 acres. So I think it depends. You could do a 9-hole course. You could do a 6-hole course just to get the people interested, or you could do an 18-hole course. I think a lot of it is just depending on your acreage and the size of your park.
Okay.
Are the fans as rabid as pickleball players?
I think they're as rabid, Dan. Maybe they're as, but they're not as passionate. It's a little bit more laid back. It's not a highly competitive sport or recreation opportunity, much like pickleball, which does become very competitive. This is, I think this probably started with the hippie generation. You know, it used to be called Frisbee golf back in the 70s. And now it's, I'm probably showing my age here. I was probably one of those guys back in the day, just for something to do. But it has become a very popular recreational opportunity for us.
Okay, thanks, Dan. That's great.
Here in Muhlenberg, we have, it started out with a 9-hole course, and it was actually built by an Eagle Scout as one of his project kind of thing. And now it has expanded into 18 holes. And there is a disc golf Facebook friends page at Laurel Lane that actually runs some tournaments, like 2 a year. I think they do that, and offer some lessons as well. So it's, you know, it's on our property, township property, but it isn't actually, we don't really facilitate lessons much more than once a year for beginners kind of thing. So it's this Facebook group that uses it. But it really depends on the amount of land that you have available. Just want to caution, you know, West Reading is near me, and they have a park that's in town or in their little borough, and they seem to want to pack every single activity, whether it be your exercise, your pool, exercise equipment, your pool, your walking trail, your pickleball courts, your disc golf. I mean, they're packing it all in there. I don't know how they're doing it and actually have room for people to move around without getting hit by, you know, a disc kind of thing. But just remember, you don't have to do everything for everybody at your parks.
Right.
We have a little bit of tension between our disc golfers and our hikers, and we're on a fairly significant piece of ground of probably about 150 acres that we put it in. So, but that is a challenge. And if anybody's familiar with disc golf, if you got hit with a disc, it would hurt. It's not a Frisbee. It's a hard, smaller plastic or rubber thing that if you got hit, it would leave a mark. So the challenge is, if you're going to put it in an area that you have walkers, you have to make sure your signage is good, and sometimes you even put a bell in so that they know that people are going to be throwing at a certain time. So we did have some tension between our people using it for hiking and some of the people using it for disc golf.
Yeah, great point, Brian, about signage and bells and whistles. Our local high school cross-country team runs in our park, and their cross-country course runs through some of the disc golf areas. So we do have a lot of signage, caution, flying discs in the area. Any awareness that you can promote is certainly a positive, but good point.
All right. Hey, I'm looking at the time, and I see there's 2 other questions. I think, Karen, you got a short one, and then we want to talk about summer hiring and pools to go on after Nolan's question. But go ahead, Karen.
So my question, and maybe just awareness to some of those that actually run hay rides or haunted barns, there actually is an inspection that you need to go through. Somebody is typing. Can you mute your thing?
Brian, here we get you.
So anyhow, it's an awareness more so than, you know, we've been having our haunted barn inspected by the PA Department of Agriculture probably for 6-7 years now. 2 years ago, he mentioned that we're going to have our hay wagons inspected. which is a whole nother ball game. Lots of little regulations, need to have tractor VIN numbers and how the tractor's hooked up to the hay wagon and you know, procedures. It's getting very in depth. So just want to warn other departments that may be running hay wagon or hay rides kind of thing, that there is an inspection that you need to do. So it's getting a lot more in depth for us here in Muhlenberg. I'm not sure why we're on the forefront of this, how we got to be the chosen one, but just want to make you aware of that, you know. So
My dad owns a farm and we do fall hay rides. The drivers also have to go through trainings, and also, so if like your public works are the one driving them, know that they're probably gonna have to go through some type of training also.
So Karen, do you suggest we go to the Department of Agriculture to get this, or do you suggest we just kind of lay low until they find us?
Proactive or reactive?
I'm going reactive here. That's a lot of work for a
yes.
4-hour event.
I was gonna say, sit back, relax till you get caught. Sort of like, you know, the movies in the park, you know, none of us really want to pay for that fee to
Copyright, yeah.
Copyright, you know, you wait till you get caught and then you pay for it. Just want to make you guys aware that there is such a thing out there. So,
well, thank you for that heads up. Hey, Nolan, you put a good question in there. Do you want to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, we're over at the Borough of Dormont, and for the first time in a decade, we're bringing pool operations back in-house. And so we haven't had to recruit our own lifeguards actively for a while. And one of the things we've realized is in 2020, a lot of our local schools stopped allowing people to come in and do kind of recruiting visits. And they don't really have plans to allow people to do that again. So kind of how are people, you know, recruiting, you know, younger residents for lifeguarding positions and for summer camp positions? And then is anybody having luck hiring older residents? How are you reaching out to them? Right now, we're kind of in a place where we're looking at Facebook ads, and we're looking
there's nobody over there. So.
we're also looking at doing Instagram ads, but is anybody having other success in other areas reaching out to older and younger residents?
Does the your local school district have like a bulletin board you can post online one or anything?
They do. Some of them do, and that's a resource that we're using. We're also looking for a way to maybe get in front of, you know, more actively get in front of people, kind of have a captured audience if anybody has something that they do along those lines.
We don't have a pool, but I know some other communities that had ventured into the TikTok world, possibly posting something to there. That's where the younger kids are. I went to a marketing session recently and they said that that's, you know, that's the younger crowd. And then Facebook's more towards the older. So creating Facebook posts with like pictures of older, maybe.
Yeah. And not all schools are public, no. Sometimes your community might have a, you know, a private high school somewhere, and their rules are going to be a little bit different. They might even welcome someone coming in and recruiting.
I contacted East Stroudsburg University last week, and their career development department told me there's a new program that college students are using. Well, it's not new. It's called Handshake. So there's thousands of college students that are going on here to look for employment and summer employment. So that could help.
That's called Handshake, Jay?
Yeah, I have the information in my office. I can send it to you.
I'd appreciate
or send it to Nikki and Dan.
Again, you can just put it in the chat, handshake with your email. We'll make sure you get it. And Jason, go ahead and send it to us.
Okay.
So how has everybody else been reaching out to get your summer help? Because I know it's that time of year. You must be doing something.
I use Canva and made a video and just posting it as much as I can.
Yeah, we do a lot of posting, and then I contact all the schools that have swim teams in an attempt to get the people who already swim pretty well. And I'm working with one of our swim team coaches for the local high school to actually do a program at our pool this summer. So I'm hoping some of the people he brings with him will have interest in. The lifeguarding is the hardest part for me. The rest of the positions seem to fill pretty well.
Paula, where do you post your videos?
Instagram, Facebook. Am I on mute? I'm good.
No, you're good.
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then I think we're gonna send it to the school. Our school district just got a new communication director, and so we've been working with them, and then they send the emails out to like specific, like the high school, middle school, whoever we're trying to target.
That's great.
Yeah, I would say video is a great tool. Obviously, it's not gonna help you right now because it's kind of a newer operation, but just thinking about it throughout the season, like if you can get some footage to use in the future, that's a great way to get people.
Yeah, that's what I did last year. I interviewed our camp counselors of like why they want to work at camp, what they love, and then so I'm using that this year as a promotion.
Yeah, and it's important. Like you just need a cell phone pretty much. You don't need anything fancy.
We also offer an incentive for lifeguards. If they come and do the training with us, we pay $100 of the training. And if they finish the season with us, we give them another $100. So it pretty much covers their expense for certifying.
Nolan, is this helping you?
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate that. And then because we're bringing pool operations back in house, we're rewriting our SOPs that are from like 2008. So if anybody is willing to send out their operating procedure handbook or their lifeguard handbook, so we can kind of review everything and put together some best practices, that would be great.
All right, we're having some crazy noise outside my window, so don't mind that. There, now it's stopped. Okay, let's see. Paula, you had something about priorities. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Does anyone have priority for like youth sports over adult leagues or sports? Right now we have a couple adults softball leagues that are having like prime time on the fields, and I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate that.
We actually rent out the fields to our local sport groups, but Friday is off limits for rentals because the fields need to rest at some point during the week and the public should have access to it. We don't really have any adult leagues, but we do prioritize based on the season of the sport. So if they are competing for that time, they should be the season sport versus, if it's fall, soccer has priority over lacrosse.
Mm-hmm. We have it's a men's softball that only has 15 guys on it, and they're getting priority on a Wednesday and Friday over my 650 youth league.
Is it township property?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They've just been around for so long. They've always had that time slot whenever the associations weren't that big.
Is that your council holding that up? Like, whose decision's that?
So we're unique. We have it's called the South Fayette Athletic Association, which is a larger umbrella that kind of looks over all our associations. So the adult leagues are part of that organization too. And all the township, what we have is just that South Fayette Athletic Association members have priority over non-members, where they're both members part of that organization. But one's adult with only 15 guys, and then outside teams are coming in to play against them, where my 650 baseball association is all kid residents, in-house baseball, but yet this men's softball has had this time slot forever, where it's a desirable time slot.
Paul, I have two questions. When you say adult user group, this is men, these aren't senior citizens, are they?
I have a 35 and over and a 55 and over.
The 55 and over, we've pushed to mornings, more of a senior group that plays in the mornings. The 35 and over, do you have lights on your field?
Yes.
I would maybe, it might be a hard pill for them to swallow, but if those 35-year-old group could play at night, that would open up your earlier slots for the younger kids.
I've tried that, but they say they work tomorrow. Well, the kids have to go to school tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for
groups. Are both groups member of the same association? Are they both in that same organization?
Yeah.
And your part, sorry, Dan.
I'm just thinking, this may be something for them to work out. You should, put the problem out there and then, maybe you've done this already. So
I have, yeah. And so they're seeking, the Baseball Association seeking guidance from the township. Saying they get that this men's softball has been there for forever, but things have changed, and why are they getting priority over a larger youth organization? I'm thinking about maybe reaching out to like a hockey rink, because I feel like men's leagues always get the later time. And how do anyone have hockey rinks? Because I feel like men's leagues always have like later times on rinks.
Paula, I don't have a hockey rink, but the only other advice I could give you, if you go back, as Dan said, to your association, and maybe throw an offer out to them. What we do is we do a lottery system every year so that there's not a past practice or a grandfathered in time zone. So every year in February, all these user groups meet, we roll the pills out, and whoever's got pill number 1, they get their first share of the time slot. Pill number 2, they get the second share. So sometimes it's just luck of the draw. And one year they may get, the time slot that they have had for years, and the next year they may not.
Yeah. And what's unfortunate too is, like, more background, they're using a youth field because they want to hit home runs over the fence and won't move to the larger adult field.
Sorry.
That's literally what they told me. And I just put brand new lights on the adult field too, in hopes of encouraging the adult league to move over to the adult field.
So, when I teach the CPRP class, they talk about scheduling, and one of the priorities is always the best value for the community or the best benefit for the community.
Okay.
And usually youth have priority over adult, because it's skill development, keeping them safe, all those other things. And so they encourage departments to set up sort of a hierarchy for reservations.
Okay.
So maybe you could think about, as an organization, setting up your hierarchy and then presenting that to them about, it's going to be sticky.
Do you have any word? I like that wording that you use, the best benefit of the community. Do you have any policies that have that in there?
I'll see what I have in, from the materials that I use for teaching, but and I'll be happy to send it to you. But I imagine maybe other folks here have other priorities that they use when they're reserving facilities. Anyone? No? All right, I'll send you what I have.
Perfect, thank you.
There's also someone, Donahue, they like the lottery idea. Going back to the lifeguards, some folks would like to see lifeguard handbooks. In lifeguarding, Stephanie, you're doing nonstop recruiting for lifeguards, pay for their training and clearance costs. And Kelly thinks you should just refuse them and put them on a non-regulation field. And someone else only permits 2 nights a week. Okay, so those are the things. All right, any other things about these adult men who should probably be using the bigger field under the lights? Okay, I've been trying to keep up with the chat, but it's been going quite well. Everyone, I'll make sure that you all get a copy of the chat if you want to follow up on individual things. But is there anything in the chat that I didn't catch that you want to bring out?
Is this working yet? Any luck?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, excellent. So I put a couple of things in the chat because my mic wasn't working. First thing was the set of contact emails for our pickleball crew. That's Mike Grubb, our sports and athletics coordinator, Bill Salvatore, who's now our deputy commissioner for programs, Tom Dignam is program director who oversees those districts, and then the two facility supervisors that oversee the sites with the highest pickleball, which is Water Tower, obviously in Chestnut Hill is Chuck Chrisman, and Lackman up in the far northeast, greater northeast, Philly is Vinnie Ward. Then the second thing I put was a link to our only disc golf course. I could not find that word. And it has all of their rules and regulations. It is somewhat subcontracted out to the group, the Friends of Sedgley Woods. They're kind of like an advisory council. So they staff it, they oversee the tournaments with suggestions from, you know, the general public. And then the last thing I think I put is, yeah, we are just throwing the kitchen sink at lifeguard recruitment. We're doing a polar bear plunge fundraiser at the end of the month. I will put that link in the chat if anybody's feeling particularly generous. Not that you don't have your own needs, but we're jumping into one of our pools. We're just prepping a little bit ahead of time for the event. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Steph. Okay. I'm looking at the time. We got about 2 minutes to 11. Again, I'll open it up again. Any more comments or issues you want to discuss or quick advice with the remaining 2 minutes?
I have something quick to ask, and this is really kind of a random question. We have a park, I'm from Upper Gwinnett Township, and we border Lansdale, and Lansdale has a park right that butts up against Upper Gwinnett Township. We put a fence up because residents from Upper Gwinnett were sneaking through property to get to this park. So we put this fence up. It's called a paper street. It is not owned by the township, but the residents on either side of this little pathway were complaining because kids were, you know, walking on their property, blah, blah, blah. So I worked with Lansdale, we put a fence up. Now residents are very angry because they have to walk around now to get to the park, and they're cutting through private property. Has anyone had this experience, and could you give me any advice? I thought about possibly sending letters to these residents, letting them know where the entrances to the park were instead of cutting through, you know, this area. But I'm afraid that's going to disturb everybody, and I'm just going to get, you know, pitchforks and stuff at me. I just don't know how to kind of deal with these residents. It's a neighborhood of probably about 60 homes, and they all seem to be up in arms because we put this fence up to, you know, a non-path that really wasn't a path. Anyone? It's kind of a random question, but thought I would throw it out there.
So this was a paper road that sort of connected two parks?
Yes, it connected a neighborhood to a park and a paper road. So we put the fence up because the two residents were really upset about people cutting through, kids with foul languages. They have young kids at their homes. We put a fence up. People are really up in arms. Do I just kind of let it go and let people find their own way to the park? I'm just not sure what to do.
How many people are complaining?
I probably have a call a day for the past 2 weeks about people complaining. You know, I talked to my chief of police. He's like, maybe buy do not trespass signs and offer them to these residents. Maybe kids will eventually get the idea. Do I just wait it out and see if they get the idea that, you know, the pathway is around the side and not through these people's yards?
I would just wait it out. We have,
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to be mad all they want, but eventually they'll just get over it. We have a fence that kids like to hop. We have a old quarry that was turned into basically a lake at this point, and kids would always hop it. And I ended up getting these things off Amazon. So it depends on how close the fence is to people's homes and if they won't mind the sound, but it's a motion sensor essentially used for cattle fencing, to keep people away from coming and petting the cattle. It makes an awful noise. We put up you're on camera sign. There's no camera, but it is an awful noise that keeps people away from the property line and won't, you know, people stopped hopping over the fence to get into this area, because it was a safety concern and kids just weren't listening. Otherwise, I think people will just kind of get over it. And if not, it's, you know, we use the example of, we don't tell people who gets to go down the slide next. Your adults figure it out. Teach your kids to be a little more respectful of the property line.
Right. I think that's what I'm going to do. I just didn't know if there was any advice from anybody. Thanks, Em.
Yeah, it just sounds like you're trying to break a habit. that
Yeah,
some
exactly.
people have. So maybe a nice, even a nice sign at the entrance to the old pathway saying, you know, this is, this is for, you're going to be trespassing on private property. The real entrance or the correct entrance to this park is, you know, 1 block north or whatever it is.
Right, right. It literally is.
Please
Okay.
respect our neighbors or something.
Right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Would the police ever come just to like show up and kind of like scare the kids?
They do.
Not do anything?
They're there.
Okay.
And they've talked to the kids. They just don't
Okay.
seem to care, Paula. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks though.
Uh-huh.
All right. Sorry we couldn't be more help.
No, it's fine.
But anyway, guys, I look in and see it's at 11:03. So I'm going to call an end to this Directors and Supervisors Roundtable. We're going to be starting this roundtable along with others. It's probably on a quarterly basis. So stay tuned for the next announcement and we'll reach out to everyone on that. Just a shameless plug. We have our conference next month. I hope to see many of you there. And until then, have a great day and have a great month or so. Thanks, Sam.